You know, the Black Forest is known for its cherries. You've heard of Black Forest cake or torte. Well, today we're doing, this is also German in origin, we're doing a cold cherry soup today because we're celebrating cherries today at Let's Cook. Now, to make this Kirschenkatzel, I believe is how you say it. I'm probably not saying it correctly, but it's a cold cherry soup. Now, in my pot right here, I've already started the soup. And what I've done is I've simmered in the pot here cherries, a clove, a cinnamon stick, a star anise, and then the cornstarch I'm going to use to thicken it. Of course, I can use white grape juice or cherry juice, whichever juice you want to use to make this particular soup, but the flavor is coming from the cherries. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this and simmer this with the fresh cherries, and we've removed the pits from the cherries here. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to shut this off. I'm going to go ahead and strain the cherries away from the juice. Then we're going to take these cherries, we're going to puree them, they're going back into the soup. But this, the liquid here, the broth right now, I'm going to have to thicken that, and I'll show you how you do that shortly after I puree the cherries. Now, before you puree the cherries, it's important we get rid of the cinnamon stick here and the star anise. See what this star anise looks like? It has a licorice flavor to it. That's our star anise. Puts a beautiful flavor in there, and as well do the cloves. So we'll just take this, making sure I have everything on it. Oh, here's another star anise. Good. We're good to go. Just take this now, put this into our blender, and we're going to, oops, and that's why I always only put in one clove. Make sure you get that clove out there, because if you don't get the clove out and somebody has that clove and they eat that clove, it's not going to taste good at all. It's just going to be very overpowering. So we'll just take this now, put the blender on here, and start to puree these cherries. There's enough liquid in the cherries here. There's enough liquid in the cherries here that you really don't even need to add any liquid. We put this back into our broth here. Then we're going to go ahead and thicken this. Now to thicken this, let me just get my whip right here. To thicken this, I need to bring this up to a boil. That beautiful shine there. Now you see those little pieces of cherry in there? We're going to get rid of those as well. We have our cornstarch here. Now the cornstarch, we need to make what is referred to as a slurry. Now when you dissolve the cornstarch here, it's going to always settle to the bottom. Need to make sure that you really loosen that up, and you'll notice this is a consistency of whole milk. This will work very well. Now to thicken, we're going to bring this up to a simmer and just lightly thicken this. We also need to allow this to simmer for a little while here to cook off that cornstarch flavor. And this is going to occur once it's at a simmer. It's going to start to cook off. It's going to get a nice shine, and we need a nappe consistency to this, but we need a very thin nappe, which means we don't want it too thick because we're going to cool this down and chill it. And as it chills, it's going to get a little thicker too. So just a little bit more in there. Perfect. Next thing I need to do is I need to strain this off again. We strained it once. Did everybody see that? Did you see how I caught my whip there? Very good. Just going to shut this off now, and I'm going to strain this. And I have a bowl of ice here, and I'm going to strain this into this bowl with the bowl of ice underneath so that we get it nice and cool. Then we're going to strain out a lot of those solids now. We're going to then force these through, whatever we get through here, but we really want a really very smooth soup. So you'll notice here, as I strain this now, I haven't lost too much of the liquid at all. I just strained out any of those solids, and look at the beautiful shine and color I have to the soup right now. Doesn't that look great? Beautiful cold summer soup, spring soup. So we're going to let that cool down now. Now we need to make the garnish for this soup. To make the garnish, I'm going to make an almond crepe. So I have some almonds here. I'm going to put my almonds, these are just slivered almonds. I'm putting some coconut in here too, unsweetened coconut. My flour. A little bit of cornstarch here. That I find that the cornstarch keeps a crepe a little lighter and it takes on less color. 1 egg. I'll add my milk to this now too, and then of course a pinch of salt. You'll notice there's no sugar in this. Just like this, we're just going to beat this up now. Now, a lot of times when you make a crepe, you need to allow the batter to rest. This batter really doesn't need to rest because of the almond in there, so I'm heating my pan now. And I'm not going to use butter when I make this crepe. I'm actually just going to spray my pan with a little bit of oil right there. And then I'll just use a spoon. Take a little bit of our batter right out of here. This is actually a little thick. So, and that will happen every once in a while where it might just be a little thick. I'm just going to add a little bit of water into this just to thin it down a little bit. I also don't need any oil in this because the almonds themselves have enough oil. Take this, drop this right into the pan here. And we're going to let that crepe start to cook. Nice and slow. We need that to cook nice and slow. We'll just spread it around here nice and evenly. Now, I already have some of these crepes done, and you'll notice it's only about 1/8 of an inch thick. I already have some done right over here. See how nice and flexible they are? See the great color that we have with these? Get a shot on this? Beautiful color, right? Nice flexibility. We're going to take these crepes now, and all I'm going to do is I'm not going to cut them too thin. I'm going to cut them about this thickness right here. Then I have, this is a really nice garnish for this soup because it's going to give you some crunch in this beautiful cold cherry soup. Then right here I have some hot oil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the crepes into the oil there and fry them till they're nice and crisp. See how quickly they fry? They're going to get a great color, get really nice and crisp. And these crepes are going to be the garnish on our cold cherry soup. I'm going to cut a few more crepes here. We're going to fry up some more crepes. We're going to let our cherry soup here cool down. We're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we have more going on with cherries today on Let's Cook. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Let's Cook, where our theme is cherries, cherries, and more cherries. Now, the next item we're making is I'm going to make a pork paillard, and then I'm going to make a cherry sauce with it. I'm using dried cherries for that. But the first thing I have to do is I have to get my meat here ready to fry. So this piece of meat, I'm going to take this piece of meat and actually make it look like this piece right here just by pounding it out. So you can see, look at the difference in size. It's about the same weight. We're just going to really pound this really nice and thin. In order to do that, we'll take a piece of plastic wrap. Use your meat mallet like this. We're going to start here. And now, pounding meat is kind of like putting a nail in a board, which means if you try and go too fast, you're going to bend it. You don't want to bend it, so you turn it over every once in a while, and you just keep working it this way, spreading it out as you go evenly. And what you're doing is you're breaking down all the connective tissue in that meat. I often think, when I'm pounding meat this way, I often think of the person who cut me off while I was driving. And I say a prayer for them while I'm doing this. And I have a tendency of really taking my time when I'm doing this. So remember that. When you're driving, maybe the person makes a mistake and they cut you off a little bit. They never meant to do it. It was an accident. And the same way the meat will forgive us and spread out nice and evenly, so will it'll do you good to maybe not worry about that person so much. Okay, so we have our meat pounded nice and thin. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a mixture of some spices here. I'm taking some curry, some cumin, some cayenne, some paprika, and some Wondra flour. All I'm going to do with these now is mix them together so that I'm able to coat the pork paillard. So this is my seasoning mix right here. We'll take our pan, we're going to heat our pan now, and I'll just put a little bit of oil in this. Safflower, olive, whatever your preference is. Just a little bit of oil right in here. Going to let that pan get nice and hot. While that's getting hot, we'll take our pork. Coat it very well on both sides with your seasoning mix. And the great thing about this item is it cooks so quickly because we've pounded the pork. And if you didn't want to call this a paillard, you could call it a scallopini as well. But this is nicely coated. I'm going to make sure I shake off so only the moisture on the meat is actually absorbing the spice. Need to make sure it's well coated. Now my pan is ready. Take this now. Carefully when you drop this in the pan, it should fit in the bottom of the pan, but make sure that you drop it so it falls away from you. Okay? And we're going to let that start to cook. You can see that we use a wonder, the cayenne, the cumin, coriander, paprika, and a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Now, this again is going to cook very quickly. Now, the sauce that we're going to make, I have some dried cherries here. While this is cooking, let me just show you these dried cherries right here. Actually, before I touch them, I have to wash my hands here. But you notice those dried cherries are in water. The reason they're in the water, it's warm water, just to soften them a little bit. So we have them softening. We're going to use that water. I'm also going to use a little bit of nutmeg here, some butter, and then I'm also going to take and use a little bit of arrowroot to thicken. It's going to give me a nice clean sauce with chicken stock and white wine. So I'll just take my arrowroot here, dissolve this. Now arrowroot is it's a refined starch from a tropical plant, the root of a tropical plant, and it produces a very clean, clear flavored sauce. So this works very well. And again, notice we have that consistency of whole milk that we're using for our slurry here. That's good. Let's take our meat, turn this over now, because this is, I can see the blood. See how the blood is rising to the surface there? That's ready to be turned over. Look at the color in that pan too. Doesn't that look fabulous? So I'm going to count to about 1, 2, 3. This pork is now done. Just going to take this, put this right here. I'm going to pop this in the oven just to hold it, just to keep it warm. Let it finish cooking, and I'm going to make my sauce. To make my sauce, in goes my cherries. Along with the cherries there, a little bit of white wine, a little bit of stock, a pinch of nutmeg. Great. Just all we have to do now, because the cherries are nice and soft, all we have to do is bring this up to a simmer. Add our thickening agent here. Then to enrich this sauce even a little bit more, we're going to add a little bit of butter to this. Really enrich that sauce. Now I want everybody up there to pretend that it has been about 4 or 5 minutes before I'm taking this pork out, because we really want to make sure that the pork is done before you take it out. Clean up our plate, and I'll show you exactly how this looks with the sauce. This wonderful pork paillard with our cherry sauce here. Need to make sure that butter melts really nicely. See how nice that looks? I'm going to shut this off now. The sauce is done. Beautiful. Now we'll take this right on top of our pork paillard. Oh, great use of cherries, isn't it? Let's take a little break, and then when we come back, we're talking cherry flan. It's cherries, cherries, and more cherries today on Let's Cook. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Cherries, Cherries, Cherries today on Let's Cook. What I'm doing now is I'm going to make a flan. The first thing we have to do to make the flan is we're going to make our caramelized sugar. So I have some sugar in the pan here. To this I'm adding some cherry juice with a little bit of water. What I'm going to do is I'll dissolve the sugar, then I'm going to cook this down. I'll just show you the consistency of this. I'm going to cook this down, because right now, and just mix it together, make sure all that sugar gets dissolved. Then I'll cook this down till it's clear, and this will be, I'll show you the consistency right here. And so take that spoon out. See the consistency here? Where I have a nice syrup consistency, just about that. Then we take this syrup right here. I have an earthenware dish here. I just take a little bit of this, and I mix this right in the bottom here, and that's going to be the caramelized berry syrup for my cherry flan. To make the flan, I'm going to take my milk here with egg yolks, 2 whole eggs as well, without the shell. That's why, you know, people ask me, Paul, why do you always use brown eggs? I can see the shell when I get it in there. So another egg there, splash of vanilla, okay, and then just a little bit of this cherry simple syrup as well. We'll just take this, we'll mix this together. And this is my custard mix for my cherry flan. Once this is very well mixed together, we're going to take this and we're going to bake this in a bain-marie in the oven. So we're going to just put our egg mixture right in there, making sure it just comes up to the, to the edge right there. Beautiful. Then we take this, we'll set it in a pan like this. Place this pan in the oven, and then we'll add water to the pan so it's coming 3/4 of the way up the dish here, and then we, of course, bake this for about an hour until it's firm. Then we put it in the refrigerator and we allow it to rest. When it's done, this is what it looks like. Beautiful. Now all we're going to do now is just cut the edges of this all the way around, so it might stick otherwise. Then we have to dump this out. To dump this out, don't go like this. You have to take the plate, you have to go like this, turn it upside down like that. And then we just uncover it this way. And of course, here, we have a little air pocket there. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes ever so gently. There it is. That's our delicious cherry flan. We're going to take a little break, but I have to tell you a little something about cherries before we do that. Do you know there's a lot of wives' tales about cherries, where they help relieve pain, where they're good for gout and arthritis. Maybe the old wives are remembering the days when they were young, when their lips were like cherries. As a matter of fact, cherries are also known as an aphrodisiac. No wonder they relieve pain. I'm going to leave you on that note. We're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, Cherries Jubilee. I never did it before on my show. I can't wait. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Let's Cook. In my pan right now, I have some cherries with a little bit of sugar. To this now, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to dissolve that sugar. I'm going to let these simmer for just a second. As they're simmering for my Cherries Jubilee, because it's a very simple recipe, I'm going to go ahead and dish up our cherry soup. Remember, we made the cherry soup in the very beginning of the first segment? So we take our cherry soup right here. Doesn't that look great just like that? Absolutely gorgeous. See that beautiful consistency that we have? Try not to drip like I just did on the plate. I'll show you a little trick as far as dripping. What you can do when you go to dish this up, if you just go like this and you touch the bottom, go like that, you create enough surface tension that you'll never pick up any of the sauce, okay, or the soup. Then to finish this, we have our coconut almond crepes that we sauteed and then fried. These are going to go on the top, and then you could even finish this with, whoops, I don't like the color of that one there, with a little powdered sugar or sour cream. Out of this world. Okay. We have our simple syrup going here now for our cherries. To this now, I'm going to add a little bit of Kirschwasser. That's cherry liqueur. Bring that flavor out. Then we have a little bit of brandy here. Now the brandy, you need to be careful if you're adding anything and you're going to flame it, because the brandy can have a tendency of igniting on fire. A little bit of brandy left in there. Then we'll take this, we'll catch that on fire, so we just flame that a little bit. Doesn't that look good? Okay. It's also nice if you want to use a little bit of Grand Marnier in this as well, too. Okay. Doesn't that look great? Now, once the flame goes out, add a little bit of lemon zest to this. Oh, we got a little bit more flame going there. Okay. Want a little more color in this, so I'm going to add a little bit of my cherry soup there too, just to give it a little bit more red color. At home, if you could also use canned cherries for this and use a little bit of the juice from the canned cherries. I happen to be using fresh, so we just need a little bit more color in there. Let me get my ice cream out of the refrigerator right here. And I'll show you what this looks like. Cherries Jubilee, out of this world. So I'll just take these beautiful cherries, wonderful hot Cherries Jubilee, right on top of the ice cream there. Doesn't that look terrific? Oh, as long as we don't lose our cherries, we're okay. There we are. Out of this world. We only have about 40 seconds, which gives me enough time to go ahead and taste my Cherries Jubilee. Just too good. Plus we did the cherry soup, which we just finished serving. The pork paillard with the cherry sauce, dried cherry sauce. And of course, this beautiful cherry flan right here. Thank you so much for watching Let's Cook. You have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.